From 1892 to 1924, more than 12 million immigrants passed through here, Ellis Island. More than 70 million Americans can trace back their ancestry to the people who passed through this island today. It is a wonderful place filled with a lot of history to show how America is truly one of the most diverse places on Earth. Let's walk around through the Ellis Island Museum and learn a little bit about the history of all these immigrants that came from all parts of the world. I'm Ariel, this is Urbanus, and let me know where you're watching from, and let me know, do you have any immigrants, ancestors that passed through Ellis Island? So officially, this is known as the Ellis Island National Museum of Immigration. It is a national monument and one of the most visited attractions or landmarks of New York City. Ellis Island is an island located off the coast of New Jersey, technically in New York Harbor. There's actually a land bridge that connects to New Jersey right behind it. And most of the island that we see today is made out of landfill. So we have all these different facilities that are still abandoned to this day. And they're in poor structural condition, so they're not so safe to walk around. But look at this magnificent building here. Let's walk around the museum. So here we are, Ellis Island National Museum. So this would have been the baggage room for Ellis Island. Once they disembarked from the ferries, immigrants crowded into this room where they could check their baggage, with thousands of people going through the inspection process every single day. Keeping track of immigrants' belongings had become a very major logistical challenge. And lost baggage was always a common fear, like it is in most airports nowadays. And we can see photos, right here, old photo of the people with their baggage. And here I see a globe that shows where people came from, or at least the different immigration patterns throughout humanity. So yeah, we're seeing the different immigration patterns throughout humanity. Here they're depicting the Silk Road. And to the Americas, and all the immigration that happened between the Americas as well. And here it says, the peopling of America. The story of the peopling of America is epic and complex. It spans thousands of years, containing an amazing diversity of characters, and takes place within a broad global context. So in 1819 is when the Department of State started to record immigration statistics. Before then, records weren't so detailed. So in those early years of America, we had Germans, we had Scandinavians coming in as well. Early Irish were coming in as well, a lot of Scots and a lot of English. And there's been immigrants here coming to this country for a while, even with records of some Filipinos coming into places like New Orleans. So here we see how immigration has spiked. Let's go and check out the exhibits. Here's the peopling of America from 1550 to 1890. So we are in one of the main structures where these people came in. So I'm not going to read each of these. Otherwise, it will be a very, very long video that we will be doing. So I'm going to show you the highlights as we walk around. So here's a compelling one. It says, who's an American? Over the centuries, the makeup of the US population has changed drastically in terms of race, ethnicity, religion, and geographical distribution. As people arrived here from every continent on Earth, this ever-evolving diversity challenges the idea of a single dominant vision of the American identity, encouraging Americans to embrace inclusion and pluralism. We got some sound effects here. So here we have a makeup of where different people lived in 1890. And as you can see in blue, here is mostly Western European. And then up north, there were a lot of Canadians that either were immigrating or were already settled in most of the northern parts of the US, northeastern parts of the US. And it's interesting. There has been Mexican immigration in the southern US for more than a century. And here we see in 1890, well, it was recently just becoming bought territory from Mexico. But we see a lot of Mexican populations down here. And then here we have, very interesting, the Asian population. So large parts of Asian population is Idaho, California, and Utah, which is very interesting.
In maintaining that liberty of conscience for which our fathers and theirs bled, so that united by the bonds of our social compact and common interests, we shall continue to enjoy the blessings of which we have hitherto been proud.
This is our point. Entire and unconditional repeal of all naturalization laws.
So that is depicting the Irish immigration that exploded in the mid-1800s during the huge Irish potato famine, which is a very long, complicated affair, much more than just a mere famine. Way too long to even convey in just this video. But the point is, millions of Irish came over here to the point where 1 in every 4 New Yorkers were Irish in the late 1800s. And there was a lot of anti-Irish sentiment because at that time there were these racialized views against the Irish who came here, and they had a tough time finding work. So much so that there were signs that said, "No Irish need apply," and they were all around. So here are the different routes that they took. Different human migrations throughout the era. Lots of information here. So let's continue going faster, and we're going to see the main rooms where the people actually came here, shuffled along to make their way into this new country that they would call home. So let's go down here. So we still have the original tile floor tiling. To me, it reminds me of a public school because public schools have a lot of the same architecture. And Yes, let's go to the Ellis Island experience. That's the most important part, right over here. So there's a lot of different exhibits. There's an exhibit of new immigration from 1945 and onward. 1945, a lot of them also Puerto Rican, weren't technically immigrants, they were migrants. But that's when many ancestors of mine came over here. And let's go upstairs to the Ellis Island experience, 1890 to 1954. 1954 is when this officially ceased being a processing center for immigrants. Of course, the staircase is new. Well, here we are. So you can just imagine the hustle and bustle that was happening here back in the 1890s. Hearing languages from all around. At that time, mostly it would have been Europe. So we would have heard Russian, we would have heard Polish, we would have heard Yiddish, which is a mixture of Hebrew and Central European languages, Hungarian, Romanian, maybe even Scots. I heard people from all around the world here. And there were a lot of these booths, which we see people taking a selfie right now down there. And also there were all these health checks where they would check if you had lice or if you had jaundice or yellow fever, a lot of different other ailments. And there were nearby hospitals, which are the buildings I showed you earlier. I'll show you via the window. It says by the hospital buildings, by 1911, more than 15 buildings on the island were devoted to medical care. And there's a lot of echo here. 275 bed hospitals and contagious disease wards with 450 beds. The staff of 40 doctors also dealt with every kind of medical impairment, from slight injuries to rare tropical diseases. So here's one of the, probably the worst parts of immigrating through here was the eye exam. They would pinch your eyelid and check if you had anything. Oof, that must have hurt. They were checking if immigrants had trachoma, which was a contagious eye disease, like turning back their eyelids. If the doctor found any indication of some type of disease, you would get these marks on your clothing with a chalk. L was for lameness, E was for eyes. One of these old tile floors. So yep, someone would be waiting here, checking if you had any eye diseases, checking where you're from, checking that you're not a criminal. America truly did let the floodgates open when it comes to immigration, with millions of people coming here. No, not all countries were allowed here though. There were countries who had a stricter quota, and that included the Chinese and Japanese populations. All right, well, where shall we go? Let's check it out. We're wandering around mostly, seeing what we'll find out. We got a History Channel special. And let's go through here. Bathrooms. Excuse me. Ooh, donuts. So here were the different people who helped people coming in, immigrant aid societies like the YWCA. And we have the Doctors of the American Revolution as well. Some people here also changed their names, especially if they were coming from Eastern European countries where the names were a lot larger and harder to pronounce here. Here we have the Book of Psalms. It was one of the books found here in Hebrew. And the Daughters of the American Revolution had a citizenship, how to become a citizen here, book in Russian. 1927. So we can see some of the abundant structure right over here. What might have been the wards or the hospitals. So here was a milk distributor, and that's where they pass milk through. As they were waiting in limbo, a lot of the people left graffiti as well. These were the interior walls. And by 1954, a lot of them shed their outer layers, so they revealed all these graffitis that were visible. Well, the writings of many people who came through this very processing center. old switchboard. So immigrants did not just come here to New York, which is right over here, but they continued westward because there was a lot of opportunities in the Midwest, opportunities, of course, a little bit more towards the Texas region, and a lot of opportunities also in California. So immigrants here, not all of them stayed, such as many Scandinavians. Some Scandinavians stayed in Brooklyn or parts of Manhattan, but a lot of Scandinavians ended up continuing to the Midwest. And that's why to this day, Midwest, we have a lot of Scandinavian descendants, also German. But then again, the poorest of the bunch, like the Eastern European or the Irish, would stay in New York. But you would be able to take a railroad and continue your journey further west. Different railroad companies here. And the Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western Railroad were actually available just across the land bridge towards New Jersey. So here we have all the different currency found in Ellis Island. We got Mexican peso right here. We have a dinar, a corona, I mean. A franc, French immigrants. And here was the money exchange. So you can take your railroad what appears to be Greek. Wow. So cool. We got the National Bank of Scotland, a Scottish pound. Lots of photographs were taken here. This was a cash register used in the food concession area. So this is the hearing room, which was restored to look like it did in 1911. And during this period, they had a board of special inquiry. About 10% of all immigrants arriving at Ellis Island were held for a legal hearing. So if you were suspected of having mental impairment, you would have this mark over here. And then she was suspected of having eye problems, so they had an E mark right over there. So here are the chalk marks. And here's the eye exam. And the different inspection cards. The different steamboats actually, or the different boats themselves, ships, had these inspections. And here is how they checked for trachoma, the contagious eye disease, and they use this right over here. Oof. You would not be allowed to enter if you had contagious eye disease. And here's footage. And let's see what's on the other side. So this is how big the museum is. Really, really big. So let's go check out this other half of the second floor and then go one flight up to see the peak years of immigration. So here we have all the people that immigrated. 9 million of the 12 million that immigrated here during those years, 1892 to 1924, was from northwestern Europe. So Scandinavia, Scotland, Ireland, France, Germany. 8.2 million came from Eastern Europe, so Russia, Romania, Hungary was considered Eastern Europe. 5.3 million came from Southern Europe, which was Spain and Italy. Italian immigration really picked up steam a little bit later, and we have Greek as well. And only 20,000 from Africa. And they do not mention Syrian or Lebanese immigrants, which is interesting, but we also had immigrants from these two parts of the world. Almost 500,000 from Mexico. Only 50,000 from Australasia, 650,000 from Asia, 1.8 million from Canada. Wow. And a measly 350,000 from West Indies and the measly 50,000 from South America. Very different to today's makeup, where a lot of immigrants are indeed coming from South America. Here's a vaccination card. That's fascinating. All the different passports. The posters for the different passages here to New York City, where they would inspect you beforehand, so you can speed up the process just a little bit. For example, this ship was coming in from Trieste, Italy, all the way to New York. And here we have all the steamship tickets. White Star Line, Cunard Line, all of the other different lines, the Hamburg Line as well. You know, immigration wasn't only going to New York, it was also going to places like Buenos Aires, so New York wasn't the only one. But here we have Napoli to New York to Florida. Naples. And here we have the shoes of the little kids. Reminds me of Ernest Hemingway's amazing short story, Baby Shoes, for sale, never worn. (1903), here we have all the cities. New York by far the most, with 706,000 100,000 people coming in. And Baltimore, a very distant second with 69,000 people going to Baltimore, Maryland. We had 11,000 people go to Honolulu. That's interesting. And a measly one person going to Brunswick, Georgia. That's funny. Here are the different ships to go westward. Different ads for people who wanted to work, including people who want to work in San Francisco, California, the other side of the US. And all the different railroad lines, all the brochures. Oh, look at this. That's kind of cool. Wow. And of course, there was a lot of anti-immigration sentimentality, such as a lot of people against Chinese immigration, which could have been much, much larger, because the Chinese have one of the largest diaspora in the world, even more so than the Irish. But because they were not allowed and they were restricted from coming into the US, they ended up going, a lot of Chinese and immigrating to South America, South Africa, many other parts of the world. Here we have a brochure that says America for Americans. And here's one of the famous cartoon magazines, Puck. Lots of political cartoons. It was meant for a lot of people who came here and did not know how to read English, and thus they wanted to make something that you could learn about American politics and news just by looking at a picture. Wow, this museum is truly gigantic. This video is going to run for an hour, but I highly recommend allotting a lot more time to come here. You could truly learn a whole lot in depth about immigration history. But let me just show you very quickly the rest of these exhibits. Lots of photos here. Lots of video footage as well. And here we have all the different magazines from all the different immigration groups. We got the Chinatown Rag, interesting. Or maybe these were songs, I think. I'm going back to the land of spaghetti. I guess they're trying to make a song based on Italian immigration. I know washi tute. Uh-oh. Not politically correct songs. There we go. I'm not gonna say that out loud. So here we have the certificates of naturalization, citizenship. Truly immense. All right, now let's go to the third floor. Let's see. Can we go up through here? I think we can. Yeah, huge, gigantic museum. I'm definitely going a lot faster because otherwise it'll be like a 2 or 3 hour video. So I think the third floor, is it closed? All right, we'll take the elevator. And we'll check out the dormitory room for the last part. So most of the west side seems to be closed, but the east side right now is open. Six feet apart. So here's the progression of Ellis Island. It got continuously bigger as they needed more and more facilities. And then they expanded to the other island. So we have an E-shaped island. This is 1903. And then, yeah, we end up getting the full E shape right over here by 1923. And we're only in one building. It is a huge complex. And this is how it looked like by 1940. Images from home, family photographs, postcards, prints, old mementos from the old country. So this is a family called the Sicurella family. Sicurella. From Adrano, Sicily, 1903. A deck of playing cards. That's really cool. So here's photographs of after 1954 when it was fully abandoned. It laid abandoned for many, many years. And then starting in 1982 to about 1990s when they started doing the renovation process in order to open up it as a museum. So here we can see a photo, aerial photo of it laying abandoned with the Twin Towers right behind it. So extensive renovation process. This still has yet to be completed because they only did this main building over here. And the dormitory rooms might be closed. Let's see. Also, these are the dormitories, okay. So now, we basically see most of the main museum. And here we're back. So to see photos, to have, ooh, good echo here. Here's how it looked like in 1949. So a lot emptier. A lot less people coming in specifically through Ellis Island. Here is how it looks like in 1924. And then 1912, a lot more full, a lot more people. I wonder if these are Guastavino tiles. Very great echo here. Oh, it's carrying the sound from someone whispering down below. Here's 1909, and this is where they had the immigration maze right here in the May Hall. And 1901, and that's when they started installing all these guard railings in order to more efficiently shuffle people around. To think that so many millions of people passed through here, many of them descendants of modern day Americans. If you are from the US, you might have a grandfather or great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather, great-great-grandmother, or before who came through here. So that was the dormitory room, and that's where they slept as they were being processed. And then some of them stayed longer in the nearby hospital. Wow. So let me know down in the comments below if you have family members who came here through Ellis Island. I'll be very curious to hear your story, or if your family's story is still told throughout all these generations. I myself don't. My family came here via the airplane because they were Puerto Rican, but I know many of my friends have ancestors here, Italian Americans, Irish Americans, that came right through here, Jewish Americans as well. So I hope you enjoyed this walk through Ellis Island. By no means was this an extensive walkthrough, because you can easily spend a few hours in this museum reading all the different stories, seeing all the different memorabilia. So I highly recommend visiting here if you can. It is very accessible. There's a lot of elevators and a lot of ramps here if you need some accessibility. And thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Ariel. This is Urbanist. Keep being awesome and always keep on exploring. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.